Hello and welcome to the Side Netting Podcast, the place where we'll discuss all the latest goings on in the world of football, play a couple of games, and of course throw in a tangent or two. I'm joined on the same time difference, no less, by my cousin, my friend, most importantly, my co-host, Kieran Burke. Kieran, we're in the same bloody country.
And welcome back. It's been a long time coming, you dirty Aussie whore. You finally come back to the land of the living.
Good day to all.
Fuck off. Take your good day, take your shrimps and the barbie, take your macas, and get it.
So, Kiers, you noticed a little clue or two when you listened back. Dropped into the tail end of last week's pod.
I did. You threw me a few bits of bait, which I was completely oblivious to. Of course, I didn't have the slightest of inklings that you would be returning. So a wonderful surprise that greeted me on, was it Tuesday evening?
It was Tuesday, so we're recording this on Thursday evening. But yes, the other day on Tuesday, I came back, much to Kieran's surprise, and we had a beautiful reunite, which may just drop into the end of this podcast. If you keep on listening, you'll hear a lovely musical, accompanied, emotional reunion.
Lovely little teaser. Lovely little teaser there.
But yeah, so we're still apart. We're not in person just yet. I'm up the other end of the country at the moment, so we're still on our virtual recording. But we'll jump straight into the week of football from last weekend. Kiz, which game do you want to start with?
I think let's do the Spurs United game. Probably one that might have surprised a few people. I'd say myself included. Potentially, I did fancy Spurs for the win.
You
but
did. We'll go into
I think the
predictions later
manner
on.
I think the manner in which they done it was just. United had their moments in that first half hour, but I just think Spurs after that sort of controlled the game. United look really poor. They look really bad. And obviously we've Arsenal have got them in a couple of weeks, so hopefully they remain shit until then. But I was impressed with Spurs again. I've got to be honest. As much as it pains me to say that, they did look good.
Yeah, what's most impressive with Spurs, I think for me, is there's a lot to be made of their front-footing, exciting, attacking football, which is there. But what wasn't thought of as much is how rock solid they were in defence. Like, you say United has their chances early on, but for the bulk of that game, they really frustrated United. Like, they did have the odd chance, and I think Rashford was very poor at points. Fernandes also missed a great effort in the game, and it'll be an interesting one, but they really did frustrate them with their defending, which I don't think was as expected as how they are moving forward. Like Maddison in that midfield, the difference he is going to have in the middle of that Spurs midfield. If they can get a decent striker before the end of the window, there's a real opportunity for this Spurs team to surpass any expectations that were had. Not necessarily in the Champions League, but if they're in fifth or sixth by the end of this season, that's it's what we're saying about expectations before the season started. If they can get that now, be massive for this Spurs side. And Absolutely. Early on this season, I think they're looking on their way.
And it's not just the new signings. Obviously, Maddison looks class. Van der Ven at the back looks a good, solid little centre-back as well. But Basuma was unbelievable on Saturday. And obviously a player when... He was. And if they can get the best out of players that were already at the club, obviously they've been underwhelming. Basuma not even really had a look in, like since he came from Brighton. He was obviously a player that was rated very highly at Brighton, but since coming to Spurs hasn't really shown anything, and he was unplayable on Saturday. He's picking the ball up, breezing past players, strong in the tackle. So if they can get the best out of their players that they had as well, that, as we said, I think they can definitely reach those European spots, which is something not a lot of people tipped them for. So early days, but looking good, to be fair.
Yeah, surprisingly positive for them, and not necessarily surprising, but blunt is how I describe United.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. They just don't look like they've got that competitive edge this season. I don't know what you think, but they don't look too arsed about. They're on the pitch. They're just going through the motions.
Yeah,
really,
they don't.
Aren't they?
They don't necessarily look bad. They just look bang average.
Exactly that.
But
exactly that.
they did start poorly last season and rolled into it. That's not without the realms of
Yeah,
possibilities for this United side. Obviously, we
of
played
course
them
they got
early on last
Holsham.
season and then lost to them at
Exactly.
Old Trafford. Which, as
Yeah,
you say, we're playing them a couple of weeks. We'll see what happens there. But there's just nothing about this United side at the moment. So there's going to be a lot for them. And it's not even a case of making signings, it's making this team work. Because they have the
yeah,
players there. Like, getting a new signing or two isn't going to do a lot. I think they, like, Rashford through the middle is something that should, in theory, work. And the level of missed opportunities for him on the weekend was very poor.
yeah. Agreed. And obviously we've just touched on Arsenal there. We didn't really talk a whole lot about Arsenal last week on the pod, so I think it's only right that we have a bit of a chinwag about Arsenal.
We were very good at keeping Arsenal to one side last week. There wasn't too much
We
to
were.
discuss on them. So we were actually good professional podcasters doing professional podcast things last week.
We were. That's all going to change now. I believe you were on a flight back to England at the time of
I
the
was
Arsenal
indeed.
game.
I watched this game. Big up Emirates. I'm a company man, if nothing else. On an Emirates flight there, watching the game as they had streaming it live on the old entertainment system. So that's a definite plug for Emirates there.
It's only right we won, obviously, on the Emirates flight.
Oh, of
It was meant
course.
to be. A cagey game though. A
A very
cagey
cagey
game.
game. With let's start from the top. An absolute classic in the genre of red cards that will only happen to Arsenal Football Club.
Absolutely.
8 seconds. Tomiyasu
Yeah.
had the ball in his hands. 8 seconds.
Ridiculous. And confusingly, a lot of pundits seem to think the second yellow. I don't. I'm not so sure on that second yellow. I feel like there was very little contact on Ayew, and he just went down.
Yeah,
There wasn't even really a pull there for me, to be honest. People saying when you pull someone back, it's a yellow.
but he
He
doesn't
didn't
touch
even
it.
pull him back. He
Yeah.
doesn't. He barely touched him.
The thing with that one
Really
is for
confusing
me,
one.
yeah, is it's that difficult thing. If the ref's calling a foul there, it is a yellow card.
Yeah.
But it's one,
It wasn't a
not a
foul.
foul, and it's two, if it's a second yellow card, you should be able to review that. Like, not
Yeah.
reviewing, you shouldn't be able to review a yellow on its own.
Yeah.
But if it leads into a red, surely there should be extenuating circumstances to review that. Because on a review, you clearly see that no foul is made. But even the first yellow was very much, and this is the problem with the time wasting yellows coming into effect, is it's a great idea in theory, same as the yellows for chatting back to the ref and stuff. It's a great idea in theory, but it leaves way too much to referee discretion and chance, and being influenced by home crowds and those kind of things. It's a very solid idea as something to tackle what is a problem, but it leaves way too much to referee discretion, and referees that have repeatedly shown themselves to be incredibly poor in the Premier League, and not just on Arsenal games. It's very easy to be biased in these situations, but across the Premier League, we have some of the worst officials in the world.
Absolutely. It seems common sense that a second yellow would be able to be reviewed. It obviously has a significant impact on the game. So for me, that's a real oversight. But yeah, as you said, the level of officiating throughout that game, even that red aside, I felt was poor.
Yeah.
He's very inconsistent in the decision making, and even obviously Palace could have had a pen as well. Partey did dangle a leg, so I've seen a lot about that as well.
That wasn't a pen for me.
I don't think it was. I think he was looking for the contact and he went down easy. But I think it's one of them. If the ref had given it at the time, it wouldn't have been overturned either. So
exactly one of them.
yeah. So yeah, we 3 points.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say, we
guess-
mentioned that red, and that red did then lead into one of the most beautiful backs to the wall defensive. We were playing basically a back nine, and it was absolutely gorgeous. It was one for the sickos. It was.
It really was. Yeah,
Like-
we scraped through.
Yeah,
But
there was a
as you
period
said,
where we ended up getting the ball, somehow ended up getting the ball into the Palace half and just played keep ball in the Palace half for like a minute, 2 minutes, and it was
Beautiful.
absolutely orgasmic.
brilliant subs from Arteta as well to bring on Jorginho, to bring on Zinchenko. they just came in and we were we were just
Players with
chasing
a
our
brain.
tails for 20 minutes, exactly that. And then once they came on, you could just see that change of us actually being able to call heads, let's keep the ball, just run the clock down a bit. But when we needed to defend, we did as well.
Yeah,
Gabriel, when he came on,
did it
solid. Real
brilliantly.
strange one, he's not been starting for me.
Well, there's obviously all that Saudi talk at the moment, but he
Yeah.
hasn't been fully fit, has he? I thought that was the talk. Didn't he take a knock?
Well, I think there's a bit of confusion about it because they've not come out and outright said he had a knock, but then, like, Arteta's been very coy on it to sort of say he'll play a lot of games for us this season, like, which kind of hints at maybe tactical changes. A lot of people have said it's due to the fact that obviously Zinchenko's not fit yet, so we're not inverting our left back. We obviously had Tomiyasu there on Monday night, and then Partey was the one who was coming into the middle, and then it would kind of be that back three. So whereas we usually do that on the left side, people were kind of linking that to Gabriel. Obviously, won't be doing that role where he's got to kind of be the inverted player.
Yeah.
So I think that's been kind of discussed as a reason why. I hope to see him in the starting lineup come Saturday, to be honest.
But it was very positive
I
to see that work with like Ben White dropping into centre back.
Yeah, Ben White as well. Shout out to him,
Oh,
Mr.
phenomenal.
Consistent.
Yeah,
Just every game he's an 8, 9 out of 10 at the minute.
Just for a man that plays like he's working a 9 to 5 in Farringdon, in a Farringdon office block or something.
He'd probably rather be, to be fair.
Oh, I'm sure he'd prefer it. He gets in, gets out. He's the epitome of works to his hours. As soon as 5 o'clock is, that man is out the door.
He clocks out, no overtime.
Yeah,
Does his job, goes home.
he's not answering
sleeps.
emails on holiday.
No way. Like if he kind of sends a wrong email at work, he's not losing any sleep over it. He's like, I've done my job. What more do you want me to do?
Yeah, he's the man I strive to be in life when it comes to their job. But as good as he was on Monday night, another man we're going to talk about, and I want to talk about two of the new signings, who got differing levels of review. And the first is Rice, who was unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, unbelievable. What a difference he makes when he's playing like that. It's like just the player Arsenal have needed for so long.
Crying out for.
Just like control the game from the middle, break everything up. His range of passing was unbelievable as well. Like just without breaking stride, hitting a 90-yard diagonal ball into feet, and then we're on the attack. Like he just
Changes the game.
controlled the whole game absolutely. And if he looks a bargain now, to be honest, with the likes of Casado coming in, and obviously we're not going to judge someone off one game,
But he did have an
by all
absolute
means, it wasn't a glittering debut. So things like that kind of make us a bit more smug about. Obviously, we were getting bashed a bit about the 100 million fee, but if he plays like that this season, then
worth every
penny. Absolutely.
Yeah, but the other
Havertz then.
Yeah, what's your opinion on Havertz? Because he's a man that's got a lot of conversation around him on Arsenal fan quarters.
For me, I'd like to see him do a bit more, but I don't think he deserves the level of stick he's getting. I think he works hard. I think, as I said last week, he is a player that, alongside Odegaard, wants to get on the ball. And players like that really help tick the team. Like, you don't necessarily always notice them, 50 times in a game, but he will actively make those angles to get on the ball, which creates space elsewhere. I saw a thing yesterday, actually, of his running stats, and he's covered the most distance of any of the Arsenal players so far this season. So things like that get overlooked.
It's because he's not flashy. He's not actively doing things, if that makes sense. He's more running around in the background, and he's doing a very good job at that. I think people look at Havertz as someone that should be contributing goals and assists, and that's part of his game. But doesn't necessarily seem to be what Arteta's aim for him is at the moment.
That's exactly it. I think he can be that player, but at the minute, him being used in that sort of left centre mid role, it's not necessarily what's being asked of him.
You need to
as I said,
temper
I would like a
expectations
bit more.
based on where he's played.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
exactly that. Exactly that. But I feel like I would like a little bit more. I think he's a player with a lot of
Yeah.
potential.
And we're only on
I
game
think
2 of the
maybe,
season.
yeah, I think with confidence it'll come. And as hopefully we continue picking up results, he'll start to kind of, not necessarily feel the pressure of the big fee and, coming to your London rivals and so on. So,
Yeah, it'll
yeah.
come with time. But let's wrap through the other 3 games we wanted to discuss.
Yeah.
Brighton. Like, it is against lower opposition again. But, do they look scary. That Matoma goal.
They do it every year, though. They lose players every year and somehow don't get worse, and if
Yeah,
anything, get better.
we discussed
It makes
this.
no sense.
Yeah, we discussed this in our preview pods about the way Brighton just bounce back every single year, somehow better than the year before. But though the two goals I wanted to talk about, or I guess 3, is Matoma's goal, which was unbelievable. To have that's gonna be a hard goal to beat for goal of the season already.
Yeah, yeah,
Like no long hit is gonna beat that Matoma goal for me. That was unbelievable. The footwork, the dribbling, the finish, perfect. And then the other goals I wanted to discuss was both of March's goals because of the
yeah,
passing from Enciso, your mate,
yeah.
South American wonder kid.
I fucking called it. As soon as I took him up my FPL, the man goes in. Although he has actually, it's just been announced he's got an injury, hasn't he?
Oh,
So he's
really?
out. He's out with a knee injury, which is a big blow for them. But yeah, class little player. But the only reason I took him out was because of the rotation risk.
Yeah.
When he starts, I've got no doubt that he'll return. But yeah, 2 lovely assists and good finishes from March as well. Very composed.
Yeah, they once again blowing teams out the water, looking very bloody good.
Yeah.
And then this weekend they have West Ham, so another team that they in theory could be beating quite comfortably. But talking about West Ham, a big win for them at the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. I think, to be honest, I only saw the highlights of this game, but from what I was seeing online, Chelsea kind of dominated that first half and obviously missed the penalty late on. And I think that kind of gave West Ham that belief that they could get something from the game.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's a case of taking your chances. As good as Chelsea might look at times, same with the Liverpool game, if you're not taking your chances and controlling the game. I think that's the key thing for Chelsea. They look good in periods, but they just never look like they've got a grip on the game.
Still
Like,
trying to string things together.
You look at Arsenal and City, and like 95% of the game, they're in control. And I think to kill teams off, you have to have that. Obviously, different teams, different playing styles, but you need to have a bit of a grip on the game. I think that's where Liverpool have kind of potentially lost themselves in the last season or so. It's like they've lost that bit of control in the game where they're just relentlessly at teams. I think they're a bit more kind of vulnerable at the back. I think Chelsea have an element of that going on.
Yeah, do you think that's something that will come for Chelsea, or do you think it's already panic stations for them?
I think because that squad's not played together, they don't necessarily have like the kind of team bond where they can go, right, let's calm down a bit, let's not overreact. It's like every player's playing for position in that team. It's such a big squad. They all need on an individual level to show they're doing something. And I think that's causing a problem, to be honest, because there's no iron team, that famous saying. And I feel like a lot of the Chelsea players, because they have to like cement their spot because there's such a big level of competition and everyone talks about how big their squad is, I feel like they're kind of playing up to that a bit. So for me, it shouldn't be panic stations, but I get the feeling it will be.
Yeah, I think still a bit of time for Chelsea. Need to get a win on the board after a difficult first couple of games, and Luton, I reckon, is the perfect team for them to be playing next.
Yeah.
Because they're going to need Luton at home. They're going to just need to blow them away, get a win on the board, settle that team out a little bit, and show how they can play. And I think that's the exact game you want after a loss like they had at the weekend. So we'll see how Chelsea get on. I agree with you. It's not panic stations yet. There's still time for this Chelsea team to firm themselves out, and we'll see how they get on, really. But the last game I wanted to discuss from last weekend before we get into our predictions and discuss the FPL a small bit. City Newcastle. Newcastle seemed to frustrate that City team for a good while. Haaland off the boil a little bit.
Yeah, although saying that, I never felt City were massively under threat. I think, they never. I think I've mentioned it before. They never seem to have to really get out of second gear a lot of the time because they just kill teams off with their control on the game. I think Newcastle did do well, and there was moments where they looked like they might be able to get in, but I think they had one shot on target, which says it all really.
Yeah, it was more
I never
defensively for Newcastle. Like City had to
Yeah,
basically
losing 1-0 away at City's
yeah.
not by any means a bad result.
Fantastic goal from Alvarez was the difference in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Newcastle, very solid team. They're going to do well this year. Everyone can see that. But I think they're just obviously not at that level of a City yet. And I think, to be honest, from last season, no one is yet. Hopefully we will be, but that remains to be seen. So I think, I just think Newcastle didn't have quite enough to threaten City enough to really put them under pressure. But solid, like 1-0 away at City is not a disgraceful result by any means. So I just think City were never really under too much threat once they scored that goal.
And for City themselves, when Haaland, who did not have a good game Saturday night, is playing like that, which happens. Everyone is human, as the cliche came on the commentary. When other people are going to pop up and score goals, like the goal that Alvarez scored, that's Pep will be delighted about that. Because sometimes you do almost get dragged into a discussion about Haaland sort of dragging that City team. Not maybe dragging is a bit too strong a word, but like they're a good team, but Haaland just pulls them even further ahead when you've got players that are then stepping up and scoring goals as well.
Yeah.
Is always a big help for that City side.
Definitely.
So that was last weekend, kids. We'll drop into this weekend now. We've got our 5 games to predict. Game number 1, I'll sort of have you to make your points, make your prediction, and then I'll jump on the other side of it. We'll start with Brentford Palace.
Yeah, I've gone 1-1 in this one. I think it'll be one of those games they just cancel each other out. Both solid teams. I just think neither side will quite edge it. I can just see them cancelling each other out. I think both have started the season decently. I just see that one. They cancel each other out 1-1.
I think my score prediction would differ, or does differ, based on who's at home. If this was at Selhurst Park, I'd either have a 1-1 or Palace edge in it. But it being away, I've got Brentford 3-1. I think the way this Brentford team's clicking, with Embremo especially stepping up these last couple of weeks, especially last weekend, scoring twice, I think they'll continue that. I think it'll be a relatively comfortable win at home. I think they have the edge on this Palace side. I think this Palace side look decent start of the season, but I reckon Brentford have the edge on them myself.
Yeah, fair play. Next game then, Liverpool-Newcastle. I've gone 3-2 Liverpool in that one. I can see it. I think there's goals in that game. I think I do see Liverpool, just the pull of Anfield and just the pressure that they put you under when they're at home. I think they're going to be bang up for it. I think Newcastle similarly will be bang up for it. I just think Liverpool will outscore them, to be honest. Newcastle obviously known for being quite a solid defensive team, but I just think when you're at Anfield, the rules go out the window. And I can just see Liverpool edging that. I think they've looked good going forward, despite obviously their vulnerability still defensively. So I've gone 3-2 Liverpool in that one.
Okay, well another game here where our results are different. I've gone 2-1 Newcastle. Another team that I think have a very, very solid start of the season. I think they look very good defensively once again. I've sort of made my opinion on this Liverpool side quite clear since we started the podcast, really. I think Newcastle are the better side. As good as they can be going forward, Liverpool, I think they'll be stifled. 2-1. 2-1 for me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the games. It's quite up in the air.
Yeah.
So hard to call, but yeah, fair play. Arsenal Fulham next then. What have you got in that one, Con?
I've gone. It's always very, very tricky with Arsenal, yeah. You want to discuss it as a football game, which I've ended up doing. But you also have the fear of, oh, if I predict a comfortable Arsenal win, this is going to be fucking a terrifying experience. But I've gone 2-0, but it is an Arsenal home game, so maybe I should have gone 2-1. So a clean sheet might be too positive.
Yeah.
But I've gone 2-0. I think if you look at the start of the season, we've not quite got out of second gear yet, while also
Yeah.
winning games. Not going to say comfortable because we make things difficult for ourselves,
Yeah.
but it's both games are very similar. When they finished, you then look back and think, actually, Forest Palace didn't look like they were going to score. Like when Forest
Yeah.
scored their first, they actually didn't look like they were going to score a second. Palace to the end, they didn't look like they were going to break down our defence. But it's only a danger in that moment. But really, they've been quite relatively comfortable wins, and I think this
Yeah.
weekend will be an actual comfortable win against Fulham. A Fulham side I think are all over the place really.
Yeah.
I think 2-1, a pretty comfortable win. What about yourself?
I think this is going to be our statement game where we kind of say we're here now.
What you
I've gone
got for me?
4-0 Arsenal. I've gone 4-0. So maybe a bit bold. I just think Fulham have looked very poor defensively.
Yeah.
They obviously lost 3-0 away at Brentford last week, so it's not kind of necessarily an outrageous statement. I just think mix of Fulham looking poor, and I think, you know, we've not, as you said, we've probably not quite got out of second gear. I think it's going to click for us this weekend, and I can see us winning well.
Fantastic. Well, I'd be very
Fingers
happy,
crossed.
very happy with that one. A return. Obviously, we'll have a guard of honour for me at the Emirates this weekend to celebrate my return,
Absolutely.
and hopefully the boys can do me justice in that experience. But the
Absolutely.
next game, kids, Bournemouth Spurs.
Interesting one. Bournemouth have looked good, but I've gone Spurs 3-1. And
Well,
I think just as easily it could be the other way round. I just think Spurs have been impressive, and I just see them getting and picking up another win. I think Bournemouth, as I said, they probably were unlucky at Liverpool. I think it's fair to say.
yeah,
Liverpool soft penalty, probably did get a bit lucky in the end. So nothing really on Bournemouth. I just think with how impressive Spurs have been, I think they're creating a lot of chances at the moment, and I think, yeah, I can see them. To be honest, as you said, if Spurs do get a striker in, they will be looking good. I still do not rate Richarlison by any means, but the fact that they're getting goals from elsewhere is a positive sign for Spurs.
yeah. My analysis is pretty much exactly what you said. I've gone 3-1 as well, but it could very easily switch the other way around if, depending on which Spurs turn up, if the Spurs we keep seeing continue to turn up, then it could be a nice, comfortable 3-1 win. This Spurs team looking very good, basically, all the way up to Richarlison. And then, as you intimated there, he sort of lets them down as their man through the middle. It's quite annoying, as we sort of thought we were going to see a real chaos Spurs team when they're actually looking quite decent to start the season. But I think what Spurs will find this season is they're going to be inconsistent.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's sort of where we were saying there, and it's also the 12:30 game of doom. So you never really know where that one's going. But I can see Spurs winning it. I think they've given no reason to think otherwise in these first 2 weeks of the season. Well, we'll see what happens, but I've gone 3-1 as well.
Lastly,
game.
then, Chelsea Luton. We've obviously touched a bit on it already. Probably a game that Chelsea would pick this weekend. I think it's a game they need. I've gone 2-0 Chelsea. I think it'll be a cagey one. I don't think they're going to breeze it by any means, but I do think they will have enough to get past Luton. Obviously, put them stone bottom at the front end of our podcasts for a reason. So I'm going 2-0 Chelsea.
I think they are going to blow them away. Stamford Bridge as well. A Stamford Bridge that are going to be pushing, hammering these Chelsea players to sort of turn up, give them something. at this point against this Luton team. I've gone 4-1 to Chelsea.
Okay.
Not quite the five goals conceded that one of our friends, so one of mine and Kieran's mutual friends, there's now a bet in place where if Luton concedes 5 goals at home before we have a little day out to the darts in December, he's picking up the tab. So we'll keep an eye on
We
that
pray.
as the weeks go on, as Luton actually are able to start hosting home games. As they obviously didn't play last weekend for that reason. I think Kenilworth Road's ready by the end of August. I think it is 1st of September. I think they said they're meant to be hosting games, but not quite 5 yet. I've gone 4-1 Chelsea.
Very nice.
So yeah, so we'll keep track of the predictions once again next week as we head towards week 5 on our first score update of the season. We'll drop in then. But the other update we've got for you is the FPL for last week. So, Keys, do you want to have a little rundown, your thoughts on last week, and then if you've got any new captaincy choices, any new signings, any updates for the weekend ahead on the FPL?
Yeah, so I think it was a successful week. I've obviously caught up a bit of ground on you. I'm only 2 points behind now, so I will take that as a win. Went a bit bold on the captaincy choice. I think I alluded to last week. I was being a bit mystic around who I chose. I just said it wasn't going to be Haaland. I did go Diaby in the end, which didn't really work in my favour. I ended up 2 points better off than if I'd captained Haaland, so I guess we'll take that as a small win.
A win's a win.
If I'd captained Mbeumo, who I bought in last week, I would have been laughing. Who got me 16 points. So I think that was a good little transfer in, although I did transfer out in Ciso, who obviously also done well, but Mbeumo done a little bit better. So that was a satisfying one. But yeah, I had a decent week. Saliba done well. I think Estupiñán's, who I think everyone has, so can't really class it as much of a win. And then yeah, a few blanks, but I think it was a tough week all round on the old FPL. So
It was a real
not too
middling
bad.
week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any
How about
signings?
yourself?
Oh well, for me, I got 50. I know you got 56. So you, as you say, you made a little bit of ground up. My big differentials: Douglas Luiz and Luis Diaz got me some points on the board. That Luiz penalty, when he stepped up for the penalty, oh, I tell you, I was over the moon. I didn't even know he was on their penalties, and I tell you, when I saw his little face, I was bloody delighted.
Bastard.
But captaincy for this week is: are you betting against Haaland against Sheffield United?
I don't think you can. I think you'd be a madman to back against Haaland v Sheffield United.
So you're going to captain Mbeumo?
I am. No, I think it has to be Haaland this week.
Any signings for yourself?
I've got rid of John Stones finally, which was a bit annoying because his price had dropped again before
Yeah.
I got the chance to transfer him out. So
Who
it
have you
was a
brought
bit of
in?
an annoying one. I've stuck with City. I've brought in Kyle Walker.
Okay, I've
so,
done very similar.
yeah.
I brought in a Kanji.
I was literally between Akanji and Walker for me. I think they're probably the two most safe options in terms of likely to start games. So yeah, very similar thinking there for me.
Yeah, I also brought in Disasi for Chelsea for James. So another same club swap there, especially with them playing Luton
Okay.
this weekend. I thought I'd
Yeah,
make use of that.
nice. Yeah, I think is it Haaland captain? Stupid question.
Oh, it's got to be Haaland captain.
Yeah.
I've benched Luis Diaz. Douglas Luiz is playing Burnley, so he's a starter, and Eze I've benched as well. I've gone 4 at the back: Akanji, Disasi, Saliba, Estupiñán across
Nice.
the back there. Isak against Liverpool, see what happens there, and hopefully João Pedro will both start this time, with De Zerbi trying to get the bloody roulette name tipped towards his end.
I know. I've got Evan Ferguson, he's been raved about so much, and yet can't get a start ahead of Danny Welbeck, which is baffling
guy,
me.
like-
So yeah, Ferguson is on my bench this week, but I do still think he will go for a period where he's like the main man. So I'm trying not to kind of jump ship too early on Ferguson. So I've kept him, but he
There's
is on my
somehow-
bench.
Yeah, somehow still got too much quality in that Brighton squad to pick a couple of out-and-out starters, it looks like. But once again, we'll jump back into the FPL next week. and see how we've been getting on. So that's enough for this week's Premier League preview and discussion. Up next, we've got our new five-a-side with the best five-a-side team names. And now it's time for this week's five-a-side. So every now and then, myself and Kieran will pick a different topic, and based on that topic, we will select our own five-a-side teams and then have a little debate, a discussion to choose a combined five. So previously, we've had our nostalgia five-a-side and our country's five-a-side, Kieran, we did previously?
Yes, I think, was it players that were better for country than
That
club,
was the one.
I think.
So, as we spoke about at the beginning of the show, I am now back in the country, and myself and Kieran did meet up in person the other day.
Get it.
Bosh. And a man that we spoke about when we met up the other day was former Wickham player Marcus Bean, who for some reason
Sounds very strange out of context.
for some reason has been a continual player in mine and Kieran's lives over the last 2 years, which then drifted into discussions of great player names, and here we are on this week's topic for five-a-side, the 5 best player names. So I'm sure you had a bit of fun with research for this one, Kiers. Bit of a look around.
Yeah, I did. I've gone very Premier League orientated, but to be honest, I didn't have too much of a look. I kind of just
Went by instinct.
delved through my memory, trip down memory lane of kind of classic Prem, and it just fun names, like names that are fun to say. Just a good name,
A good solid name, just flows nicely.
A good solid name, just a good name.
So, do you want to kick us off, Kieran, on your goalkeeper? Brilliant name.
Yeah, and I think it's a goalie we've discussed before, but I felt like I couldn't not put Mark Poon
Oh,
in it.
lovely.
I now know his first name's Mark, so I'm actually saying it correct for once. But, surname of Poon, like, come on. The Poon
Friend of the podcast.
It just... he is a big friend of the podcast. I know he'll be listening
Oh,
in.
of course,
so
he loves it.
I just thought it had to be Poon.
Yeah, and as you say there, you actually saying his name right, so it's a bit of redemption for you on that first week where you kept calling him Mark Poom, which, to my knowledge, is not a well-known Estonian goalkeeper.
You never know.
You never know. You could have a twin brother called Mark. Could be like Marty, Mart, Mark, and Marky. You just don't know these things.
Yeah, you never know.
So you've gone for old Mart himself there. I've gone for former Portsmouth and West Ham goalkeeper Shaka Hislop.
Oh, I like it.
A little throw into the nostalgia period as well, sort of the mid-2000s. Shaka Hislop is a really satisfying name to say.
It is. And you know what? I don't know whether we thought of the same one here, but we mentioned once Jussi Jaskalainen.
Oh, another friend of the pod.
Another friend of the pod, and a great name as well. We like a bit of alliteration thrown in. So yeah, I think he could have got a shout out there, but yeah.
We do love a bit of alliteration.
Two solid keeper picks.
Two solid keeper picks. We'll have what a battle that's going to be. Mark Poom against Shaka Hislop. That's an early 2000s wet dream if ever I've heard one.
Oh, that's a beauty.
So we've had the goalkeeper battle, Kears. What defender are you putting up for the next contest?
So I've gone, and funnily enough, with a lot of these teams we create, some of the players are shocking.
This is going to be no different.
This man was a very solid defender in his day, back in his Fulham days. I've gone Breda Hangeland.
Oh, lovely! That's a lovely shot. He's not a man I've thought of in a long while, but oh, what a beautiful name that is. I'll tell you what.
Beautiful.
Name. This has to be one of the most satisfying listens of a podcast. Because it's just us saying some cracking names. It's basically like ASMR for football fans.
I was just about to say that. Maybe we're delving into a new podcast space. The old sport wasn't working out for us. We'll
release a bonus episode, which is just me and you saying players' names in like a real breathy whisper.
Shall I whack up the tambourine as well?
Oh yeah, little tambourine backing vocals and then a Shaka Hislop.
Oh, that's a beauty. That sent chills down the spine.
As a lovely segue for my player, Socrates Papastopoulos. Papastathopoulos, I should say.
Oh, now we're talking. A player I don't want
Talking
to
of
think
great
about,
defenders,
to be
Kears,
honest.
you're saying there about great,
Oh, fuck off.
solid Premier League defenders. Definitely not another one in the list of awful players we seem to bring up in these five-a-sides. But I thought you have to go, if you're bringing in some like good big names, you have to bring in a Greek. And this is a
Yeah.
combination of philosopher, the old Socrates, and then a lovely, probably flowing Greek name, Papastathopoulos, which I was practicing a solid few times this afternoon before we recorded, just to try and not absolutely hammer it. And I think I still fucked it on the first go. So we move and we indeed groove.
Situations where a Greek's the only option, good name five-a-sides, and when you're fancying a meaty takeaway.
Oh, the double. Never never a good
whammy.
option when you're signing an Arsenal centre back, but.
Oh, absolutely not. And the fact you've even brought his name up's just given me some bad PTSD
Is this
of memories not long
is this
gone.
similar to when we spoke about Manuel Almunia?
It is. It really is. Just flashes of that calamitous.
What is an
back
episode of
three
this
that
pod
we
though
seem to
without a
have.
cheeky sprinkling of Arsenal-based PTSD?
It's true. It's true. It's only right.
It's got to be
only
done.
right.
Like, I don't want to go through this podcast without it ending with me rocking back and forth with tears, thinking, "Oh, why did we have Squalacci?" That sort of like real,
It's
war
only right on your
flashback
return
level
to the country that you're instantly put into a state of
despair.
utter despair. Exactly that. So
Yeah,
it's
either
only
when I
right.
land in the
It's only right.
country
Welcome
or when I
back.
think about Socrates Papastathopoulos.
The fact you're getting the name right as well is
I think
quite
I am,
impressive.
to be-
I think even if I
Go on, Kiers.
I think that's what took me away from a Greek.
Go on.
I'd probably butcher the pronunciation.
Do you want to
that much.
give old Socrates' surname a bash?
I don't. I really don't. I'll stick to Socrates and leave it at that.
Okay, we'll roll into our number threes. Are we doing classic goalkeeper, defender, two mids and a striker?
That seems to be what I've gone for. Although, arguably, one of my players is kind of a mix of a midfielder and a striker, I guess. So, yeah, I've gone similar system as always, and it doesn't seem to be planned out that way.
Just
It
seems to be the way
seems
it
to happen,
drops.
weirdly. Yeah. Who have you got for?
Me first this time. I've gone for. You went for Fulham defender. I went for Fulham midfielder. Papa Booper Diop.
Oh, another decent little player.
Oh,
back in
cracking
his
player.
day
Rest
as
in
well.
peace, sweet prince.
What a man!
He
Is
is
he
dead. He
dead?
died in 2020. I'm sorry to.
That wasn't. Me
I'm sorry to
laughing
be
at a dead
the
man. It
the
was
bad
just-
news bear there, Kiers, but Papa Booper Diop
You've really ruined my evening.
did unfortunately reach his demise in 2020. It was a bad year in more than one way.
Oh, it really was. Oh fucking hell! That's broke me to pieces. That has.
But what a name he has, alive or dead, a name that will live on, not just for his absolute bangers of the goals he scored, but just a beautiful name to say.
He did like a.
He loved a
didn't
screamer.
He liked a screamer.
That's another not PTSD masterstroke. My bad. That's another ASMR masterstroke. Papa Booper Diop.
Well, if you like ASMR,
Hit me.
I've got a name
Whisper it in
for
my
you,
ear, girl.
and it's similar.
Whisper sweet
I'll
nothings.
whisper it to you right now, and it's similar to that same sort of Prem era, and it's Lamano Luau.
Oh, this is a battle. This.
This is a battle. This is going to be tough to choose from. I don't know what our basis is for the arguments. We just say the name repeatedly.
You know when you say a word so many times it loses all meaning.
Yeah.
Papa Booper Diop and Loa are gonna be rendered
They're going to be tough
meaningless.
to beat. They're going to be tough to beat, I tell you.
A man that loved a backflip as well.
He did. That Portsmouth team was pure vibes. We spoke on the podcast recently about vibes teams. That Portsmouth team, Benjani up top, Luar in the middle. Oh, what Cranchaw knocking about as well.
Lico. Harry Redknapp at the helm,
Oh,
mate.
Harry Redknapp's love child. Oh, mate, what a time.
Wasn't Peter Crouch
What a
in
time.
that Portsmouth team?
He was, and Jermaine
And
Defoe,
Carnu
I'm
as
sure,
well.
was playing for them. They had a good
I think
little team.
Sol Campbell. What a team that was! That team that won the FA Cup.
He did actually. He did.
But Loire Loire, Papa Boopa Diop is a battle for the ages. But number 4 is
That really is.
where we driving into next.
Yeah, I've gone JJ Okocha. A man so good they named him twice.
Oh, it's a good player, a decent name. But is he at that?
It's just the double
The
JJ.
double.
It's just
Well,
what
I know
does it
you
for
love a
me.
bit of JJ, but it's not usually. It's.
It's usually on
I was
a
going to say it's
train
more
with
Journey
a
Juice
filthy
than
amount of Captain
yeah,
Morgans.
more Journey Juice than Journey midfielder.
I like it.
Okay, well
I like
JJ
it.
Okocha.
But yeah, I've gone JJ.
Now my next player, the player that JJ's going against, it's a double bubble for me. So it's Hulk, and like
Okay.
Hulk as a name, as a nickname is phenomenal, and then his actual name is Givanido Vieira de Souza,
Oh,
and like as a double bubble, Hulk is your nickname, and then Givanildo Vieira de Souza.
that is not. You know what? I went very similar for my last pick in terms of a nickname, and then looked into the actual name, and so I went quite similar. But
Oh.
yeah, a player that potentially didn't quite
No, it's,
reach the heights he was tipped to
it'd be
reach
an
either.
immediate missed opportunity. 5-a-side, he'd walk into that team.
I tell you what, I wouldn't fancy coming up on the 5-a-side against him. He'd fucking throw you
Oh,
all
he'd be
about.
absolutely
The cages
bodied.
at Power League would be getting rattled.
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 Okay, so that's Hulk. That's
We love it, right?
Givanildo himself. How, when you got a name like Givanildo Vieira de Souza, how are you going by Hulk? You'd be going. I'd be telling everyone. I'd be introducing every single man, woman, and child by my full name. But
You'd be thrusting that name
I'd
about.
be throwing it left, right, and
Rightly
centre. I
so
wouldn't be
as well.
stopped.
Absolutely. Rightly
But
so
Mr.
as well.
de Souza aside, who's your 5th and final?
So this one could be a bit left field, but I was thinking back through names, and for some reason this player just came to my head, and I just like the name. I've gone Mido,
Oh,
who
okay.
the Egyptian sweet prince that graced the Premier League for many a year. I think Spurs, Middlesbrough, I think he was at Wigan for a bit as well. But his actual name, so Mido, again, similarly,
I didn't
as a
actually realise
nickname,
Mida was in it.
is, and neither did I. And I just liked the name Mido, and then I looked at his actual name and I thought, it's double bubble here, because he's got a good
Hit me.
actual name as well. His name is, and I'm at risk of
Go on.
offending Egyptians everywhere. His actual name is Ahmed Hossam Hussein Abdul Hamid Wasfi.
Oh, do you know what? I love someone with loads of names.
Yeah, it's just
That-
good. It's just good, isn't it? Just, how many names do you want? Just keep going.
You just keep throwing names on. It's like thing is, when like an English person has loads of names, it's usually like Chris, Mark, John, Steve, Barry, and that's not as good as Mido's there.
That's made me want to look up longest names in football. Just out of curiosity, who has the longest
Well, if you want to have a little
name? 'Cause
search of
that's got to
that,
be up there.
and I'll tell you my 5th and
Have a
final
look.
to go up against young Mido. So
Let's hear it.
I've gone for, this is by far the biggest name player in my squad, but it's just an absolutely beautiful name. It's the most rhythmic name I think there has ever been in football, and it's Zinedine Zidane.
Oh, it's a
It's
beauty. It's a beauty.
Like it's as much of a worldie of a name as some of the worldie goals that he scored.
One Z's good enough,
Oh.
but you stick two in there, and with the flow he's got, it's
The doubles.
just-
Imagine
it's
in
just
school
beautiful.
though, it's like he's always bottom of the register if they weren't by first names or by surname.
Oh,
he's got absolutely no
He's right
chance.
down there.
But yeah,
Speaking
All
of
gone.
players with the long names, I've had
oh,
a
what you
little
got for me?
search, but
Fill me in.
do you know what? I'm sure there's like Mido's name was longer than all of these, but active players with the longest names in football by characters. You got Alex
Of course.
Oxlade-Chamberlain, Bradley Wright Phillips. It's all the double barrels. To be fair, you got Cameron Borthwick.
We do live in
Jackson,
quite a
who's got
double-barreled
older.
era as well. Kyle Walker-Peters.
We do. Yeah, there's, to be honest, there's Pierre-Emerick
Of course.
Aubameyang, of course. Socrates was in there as well. And Lazaros Christodoulopoulos. This is
There
what I
it
didn't
is.
pick
That's
through-
what I was waiting
Right,
for.
yes.
I knew.
No,
I knew a
edit that
round
out.
of us saying mad names was always going to end up like that. There it is.
Inevitable.
Oh, so, Kiers,
How do we narrow that down?
Well, I think
That's going to be tough.
the only possible solution is we get one go of saying the player's name in the best way you can, and we just judge it by that. So we'll start with our goalkeepers.
I'm happy with that.
You go first. Sell me on your goalkeeper name.
Mart Poo.
Okay. Shaka Hislop.
Oh, that's got the spidey senses tingling. You know what? I'm happy to give you Big Shaka.
Big Shaq. Skin up pup for Big Shaka Hislop. Okay. Sell me.
Hislop's not hot.
Shaka's in at number 1 in the cages. Sell me on your defender.
Breda Hangeland.
Oh. You've done well there.
Oh, this is a real left field podcast.
This is a big second half, I tell you.
You're just us essentially saying footballers' names at each other. It's a real.
You saw that first half got a bit classic with us just discussing the week's football. Don't you worry. Hold on to your hats. It's me and Kieran saying names seductively to each other.
You know what? I don't know why we thought this five-a-side names would be a good idea, but it turned out to be an even better idea.
Oh, kids. We thought we were creative geniuses before. I think this podcast is an award-winning podcast immediately for this episode alone.
Absolutely.
Because, are you ready?
I'm bracing myself.
Socrates Papastathopoulos.
Oh, I like that. At the end as well.
I think this is also an advertisement for us to get on those like ASMR apps.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like this will, if this podcast was being kind of grouped, this week would be completely.
So if the Calm app want to get in touch, we're free and available, and I'm now in the country as well. So
even better, coming to you live.
That's live.
I'm gonna have to fight. I'm gonna have to fight for Breda on this one. I think part of me just can't bear to pick Socrates for all that he represents. It's a good name nonetheless.
Yeah, you've got to.
I feel like Breda
you've got to put the absolutely disgrace to the good name of defending that Socrates Papastathopoulos. I could see. I'm really struggling to say the name now. I think you're contagious. Papastathopoulos. I was saying it earlier, and then you appear with your bloody butter lips. And it's slipping all over the place. I'm looking down. I'll tell you. I'll be honest here. I'm looking down my list, and I'm looking at the names I've got to go. And I think if I give you this one, like I know the battle that's coming next, so I'm happy to give you Breda Hangeland, and we'll get into one of the biggest battles of the 5.
This is going to be the big one. You know what? I'm inclined to try and fit them both in. It feels a crime to match them up against each other, but we'll go for it anyway. And maybe.
Well, we can fit. Who would be getting the boot? Who would you kick to the curb? Would you kick the Mido and Hulk battle to the one side? Would you?
Yeah, I'm to be honest. I'm happy to release JJ Okocha into the wilderness.
Yeah.
Who was your fourth?
Mine was Hulk.
Do we just go? Do we go? Diop, Luar partnership?
I think that. Oh my God! Could you imagine? Maybe not now. I don't think
that would be a.
I don't think Papa Boupa Diop will do a job now, but
depends how long the coffin is. To be fair.
Just you know that video where it's the boys have laid the coffin next to the goal.
Benjani's doing front flips whilst Diop's just fucking tapped one in with his coffin.
He's doing Luar is flipping off the coffin. It's not even Benjani. Benjani's on the outside of the cages watching.
Benjani's doing his point in the corner whilst Diop's just posted up. Oh no!
You know the one I'm on about though? It's the boys that are like zigzagging it, and he kicks it off the coffin. It goes in, and they all hug the coffin. Except instead of a hug, it's Luar back flipping over the coffin.
God! Oh, that's beautiful.
But no, it's not funny though, is it? It's serious. And for a second, what a player Papa Boupa Diop is! What a name!
Rest in
Actual
peace.
rest in
What a
peace. But nonetheless, his coffin's doing a job in the
going-
cages. He's getting in there.
It's doing a job.
Oh, so
God.
we're going to skip past JJ Okocha and young Givanildo Vieira de Souza. And it's Mido versus Zinedine Zidane. Come on, Kiers.
Oh.
Kiers. Zinedine Zidane.
You know what? I am inclined to give you Zidane, but can I just say Mido's full name?
Oh,
one
hit
more
me.
time?
Come on. I want you.
Just for the fun of it. So, Ahmed, Hossam, Hussein, Abdelhamid, Wasfi.
Oh, and I tell you what, you said Abdel Hamid with a really nice and necessary amount of phlegm there. That was beautiful.
Beautiful. It had to be
Okay.
done, but I am inclined to give you the bald man himself.
Kiers, can I have the honour of saying this team name?
You can.
Okay, in goal,
Reel
we
us
have
up.
Shaka Hislop.
Ooh.
In defence, we have Breda Hangeland. In midfield, we have... What's Lualawa's first name?
Lamar.
We have Lamano,
Even
Lualawa, and Papa Boupa Diop. And up top, we have Zinedine Zidane.
It's
And the
beautiful.
manager has to be
They
Arsene
might
Wenger.
not win that many games. Oh, of course. 100%. And you know what? I just said they might not win that many games.
That's not a bad
little
team at
there.
all.
I think I could actually see that midfield too, like being an actual Prem.
I'm shocked it
midfield
wasn't.
partnership.
And to be fair, you could see it at Portsmouth.
Oh yeah, that proper
I know
vibes
Lualawa
team.
was there, but it's that 2008 Portsmouth. You'd immediately see Diop right in the middle of that. But them feeding Zinedine Zidane. You got Breda Hangeland, rock in defence, Shaka Hislop, an absolute brick wall. That's a team, that is. When
I'll be honest. I think Zidane would headbutt the pair of them because they'd probably just be trying to shoot from 40 yards.
we have a lot of discussions about vibes level teams. Zinedine Zidane is bringing the vibes down. We can't lie to ourselves here. But the vibes of the other four players offset Zidane's complete lack of vibes.
It could easily be a vibes five-a-side as well as a best name five-a-side.
Yeah, when we get to the tournament in a couple of months' time, I think this team they've got to be going in as one of the favourites already.
100%. I think they're going to do some serious.
Oh, definitely. But Kiers, what an absolutely fantastic five-a-side. That was a pleasure to list off some beautiful names with you there.
That was a beauty. That was one of the best.
Oh,
I
it was
think, just for the pure satisfaction.
I'm
of that
incredible.
past
I'm
half
incredibly satisfied right now. And with that, Kiers, we come to the end of the show.
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey. A little bit of seriousness, a little bit of listing great player names. The mix we all know and love. Well, thanks for joining me, Kiers. We're gonna round off the podcast with what's going to be a wonderful mix. It's going to be the Incredible Hulk theme tune played underneath Kieran's reaction to me returning home that we mentioned at the beginning of the show there. So
Beautiful.
have an enjoy that. We'll see everyone next week.
That's our
Kieran,
mix.
I think next week may be an in-person record if we can't speak too soon on that.
Very exciting.
So I'll see you there.
Very exciting.
Thank you everyone for
I
listening.
shall see you then, pal.
See you next week.
Hello. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. It's been so long. Oh, look at that face. Oh, you bastard.